Let's rewind some 100 years ago. Let's discard the usual stereotypes instilled in us during school years. This way we can reveal the facts you never knew existed. So, we present to you the 5 most rogue technologies of the very recent past. Ground transportation. Today we perceive technical means of transportation in a narrow 2-wheeled or 4-wheeled format, but our ancestors did just fine with 1 wheel. Hollywood presents it to us as fiction or technology of the future, but stubborn facts tell a different story. These are technologies of the past, and a quite recent one. The late 18th, early 19th century. A huge number of outlandish, from our point of view, devices just pour out of old images. 1-wheeled mechanisms can be clearly traced in almost all aspects of the transport industry. From horse-drawn carriages and bicycles to motorcycles with speeds up to 93 miles per hour. These technologies gradually but steadily came to naught and, in the end, came under an unspoken ban. For example, the story of the Leningrad engineer Eduard Melnikov, who independently assembled a monocycle in 1970, is well known. Traffic police officers forbade him to move on the roads. There is documentary evidence of the existence of cars on a mono wheelbase, as well as motorcycles on air traction. By the way, for those who doubt the reliability of the information provided, a list of sources is given in the comments under the video. After reviewing it, people will decide for themselves whether it is possible to draw such conclusions on their basis. And here is a parking lot from a century ago, which is now presented to us as the most high-tech future and unattainable technology for cities. Walking transport. For example, here is a motor horse, which, according to official analysts, is a simulator for riding an ordinary motorcycle. Was such a complex structure made just to sit on it, like on a motorcycle? Many have seen funny videos of Boston Dynamics employees bullying robots that they created in order to test their stability and performance. But there were already similar technologies hundreds of years ago, and how much less technologically advanced were they? Judging by these testimonies, it is unlikely that much. But that's not all. Our recent ancestors used not only a unique wheeled transport but also an underground one. This footage is from the movie Kingsman: The Secret Service. It's the scene at 28th minute, which depicts an underground pneumatic transport. Maybe this is not a director's imagination, and they really used this way to move around some 100 years ago? Each more or less large city has many miles of tunnels underneath. Their size is surprisingly similar to what is shown in the film. We are told that this is a typical example of a medieval sewer. Every more or less large city had such tunnels for sewage drainage. But how much money did they need to invest in this? Not hundreds, but thousands of miles. The quality level is exorbitant by modern standards, the service life is unlimited. If even the sewers were treated so carefully, then why did illiterate peasants live in dilapidated shacks, and sometimes in dugouts, at the same time? Even by the most approximate calculations, the volume of investments in the construction of such tunnels is enormous. And the builders who constructed such a thing had to have the highest qualifications. Here we smoothly move on to construction technologies. Namely, brick. Because all these tunnels were made of it. The quality of modern bricks, despite the modern and sophisticated production technology, is in many ways inferior to the quality of past centuries, and this is known to everyone who has encountered old masonry. The quality and scale of this masonry are simply amazing. Star fortresses, tunnels, any vaulted structures. Construction technologies. In Spain, 11 miles from Alicante, there is an ancient reservoir. Tons of water is held back by a dam called Tibi in a narrow mountain canyon. And the structure wouldn't have caused any surprise if it were not for the grand scale and date of construction. The foundation stone of the dam was laid in 1589, and 14 years later, in 1594, the construction was completed. The height of the embankment is 134 feet, the width reaches 108 feet. The gateway system is still functioning properly today, 400 years later. Even an inexperienced observer will note the elegance of the ancient dam. For comparison, we can cite many modern structures that cannot withstand 100 years without major repairs. Experts unanimously point out the weak point of all modern dams, which is the poor quality of masonry. In simple terms, the dams are cracking and sagging. What kind of knowledge did our recent ancestors possess to be able to make buildings last forever? Why today we have entire scientific institutes, development bureaus, and government funding. And at the same time, we are clearly losing to them. Where are the engineers whose names we don't even remember today? And who would benefit from erasing the knowledge that would allow us to build so efficiently and grandiosely? Here are some more striking photo facts confirming the superior quality of medieval buildings. This is the masonry of tunnels from Tsarist times in the dungeons under the city of Saratov in Russia. On the left in the photo, you can clearly see a round passage, which was laid with modern brick. The original masonry looks like it was laid out recently. The modern brick crumbled as if it were 500 years old. This is Pillau Fortress in Sweden, an artificial island surrounded by man-made canals, miles of brickwork without a single error. The thickness of the walls reaches 6.5 feet. Neither the First World War nor the Second War could destroy it. The date of the beginning of construction is 1626 AD. It is indicative that access to the fort for civilians was closed until 1999. What are they hiding in such structures, and who are they? What explanations do we hear from representatives of official science? Except, of course, the legend of adding egg yolks to cement mortar. Multifaceted architectural cascades have been adjusted with precision. Now we are doing this with the help of laser technology and satellite terrain planning. But how did they do it? Did they use a string? Just look at the satellite image of the Pillau citadel. And how do you like this photo? This is the symmetrical fortress city of Palmanova, founded at the end of the 16th century in the northeast of Italy. And this is a photo of a bridge in Kiev, dated 1855. Amazingly, academic sources authoritatively state that only a year later, in 1856, the secret of obtaining high-quality steel was discovered. But how did the Kiev bridge across the Dnieper withstand its own weight, not to mention the multi-ton cargo flow through it? There are no answers to these questions. Were people so primitive in the 16th and 17th centuries, as they are trying to present them to us today? Atmospheric electricity. This is a report from an industrial exhibition that was regularly held from the beginning of the 19th century until 1917 all over the world. The abundance of architectural forms that are not typical of the technical world is striking. A lot of domed towers against the background of pragmatic mechanisms. What is that? Excessive religiosity of inventors or devices that help to display this or that exhibit. If we remember that the explosion in technology in the 19th century is closely tied to the production of electricity, it becomes very likely that the domed buildings are nothing but sources of electricity from the surrounding environment. Perhaps, people will object in the comments under the video, saying that they just built like this at that time. That this was the trend. But trends don't appear out of thin air. Why? For what purpose did they have to erect a complex structure, if they could build an ordinary brick box with a gable roof? Moreover, the exhibition was located in a covered pavilion. And indeed, if we assume that literally 100 years ago they were able to extract electric current from the ubiquitous ether, things become clear. The rapid development of industry didn't arise from scratch, but with access to an inexhaustible source of driving force. We just need to understand how they were able to connect to the energy goldmine and why such a promising direction was so unexpectedly shut down. This picture shows the building of the All-Russian Industrial Exhibition in Nizhny Novgorod, destroyed in the early years of the Soviet Union. Take a close look at this miracle of construction equipment. Why? Who would benefit from destroying such high-tech evidence? Here is the footage from the 1900s. In the foreground, there is a moving electric sidewalk. The same was recorded in Chicago in 1893. The sidewalk ran throughout the exhibition, was 2 miles long, and had 9 stations. The columns that we see in the photo were clearly not just for the show. According to researchers of atmospheric electricity of the recent past, the columns make this road move. These were technologies of the recent past. Do they stand out of the technological chronicle, which, according to the general notion, should evolve from simple to complex? What do you think? Can you consider the possibility that there are forces that control the technological level of our planet? Or all these floods, fuel-free technologies, Nikola Tesla's ether, or just the nonsense of illiterate amateurs who have nothing better to do? Write in the comments what you think about this. And as usual, we recommend turning the notifications on so you won't miss a new video that will be dedicated to the technological mysteries of our civilization. See you soon.